This unsettling incident occurred about 3 weeks ago, and its impact still lingers. I'm Carl, 35, and recently divorced, which led to my relocation back to the city after my marriage dissolved. I secured a night shift position at a 7-Eleven in downtown LA, a part of the city I wouldn't describe as pleasant, to be honest. The neighborhood was gritty, overrun with addicts and thugs, but it was employment, and I desperately needed the money. I believed I could manage. I'd previously worked security gigs and had my share of encounters with intoxicated individuals, substance abusers, and eccentric characters. However, absolutely nothing could have prepared me for what transpired that night. It was a Tuesday, around 1 a.m. The store was nearly empty, with only one customer appearing every 2 or 3 hours.
I was behind the counter, restocking the gum rack, when the door chime announced an arrival. I looked up to see a woman entering slowly. She was lanky, perhaps in her mid-40s, with greasy black hair pulled into a messy bun. Her clothes hung loosely on her frame, a puffy green jacket over a dirty tank top, and jeans soaked around the ankles, as if she'd trudged through dusty, muddy alleyways.
Her eyes were darting around, jittery, but holla, and she spread this reeking smell all around the store. From her appearance, it wasn't hard to guess that she belonged to the Skid Row area. She mumbled something I couldn't make out, and wandered toward the snack aisle. I kept an eye on her. We got tweakers in all the time. Normally she was harmless, sometimes loud, sometimes annoying, but this time was different. She wasn't browsing, she was grabbing random items, candy bars, trail mix, even a frozen burrito, shoving them into her arms with a strange sense of urgency, as if on a mission without knowing why. After a few minutes she approached the counter, plopped the pile in front of me, and began fishing through her empty pockets. She looked up and muttered, "I have no money, but they're hungry too." I was confused. "Who are they?" She pointed toward the door. "My friends. Can't let 'em starve." I looked past her. No one was outside, just the flicker of a broken street lamp and a pile of trash bags swaying in the wind. "Look, I can cover one item for you if you're really hungry, but I can't give you all this for free." She didn't move, just blinked twice, very slowly, like an animatronic. "But they're hungry too," she insisted, her voice suddenly shifting. "Look, I'm sorry," I replied. "Like I said, I can only give you one thing for free. You have to pay for the rest." Her eyes twitched, and she moved her shoulder in a way that made her bones crack. A bad feeling rushed through me. My instincts told me something was about to happen. She suddenly dropped her jacket to the floor. Jesus. Her arms were covered in rotting patches of skin that hung like wet tissue, and deep purple veins bulged out like thick worms, and there were old needle marks. Hundreds of them, some still oozed. Pace. But what truly messed me up was the way she smiled, like she was proud to show me what she'd become. I took a step back, instinctively. "Ma'am, I need you to leave now. I never leave hungry." Saying this, she started scratching hard, frantic nails, digging so deep into her arms that skin began to peel. She moaned softly, like she liked it. She scratched so fiercely that a flap of rotted skin ripped off. I'm not exaggerating. She literally tore off a strip of her own flesh, held it up like a slice of jerky, and put it in her mouth. She looked at me with this blank stare, chewing, blood dripping down her chin. The chewing didn't even sound right. It was wet and slow, like cartilage grinding between teeth. Her mouth opened a bit wider than it should have. I heard something snap in her jaw. I couldn't hold the bile rising in my throat. I puked. My legs went weak. All I could say was, "Jesus Christ." I grabbed the phone and called the cops. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely pressed the numbers. She dropped the rest of the food on the ground and began walking slowly toward the counter. Her voice turned low, not like a whisper, but like something underneath. Her voice was talking too. He said they'll come in if I feed them. I had no idea what the hell she was talking about, but I wasn't about to wait and find out. I grabbed the fire extinguisher from behind the counter, just in case things got ugly. Right as I reached the register, I heard sirens outside. She stopped, her head twitched violently to the side, like a broken doll. She looked at the door and back at me, then let out this guttural, animalistic growl. She dropped to her knees and started slapping herself. When the cops came in, she was still hitting herself, screaming and laughing at the same time. They had to restrain her, to take her away. She fought like a rabid dog the whole time, screaming about the hungry ones in the dark and how she fed them enough to last the night. They sedated her and took her to a hospital. Later that morning, a cop came back to take my statement. He said she was likely in the middle of a severe drug-induced psychosis. They ran her prints and found out she'd been arrested before years ago for trying to bite a woman's face in a soup kitchen bathroom. But this was the worst episode they'd seen. She's currently in a psychiatric ward. Ever since that night, I've been locking the store doors at midnight and only serving through the glass window. I don't care what corporate says. I'm not putting myself in that situation again. So this happened about 2 weeks ago, and I still get chills thinking about it. I swear I'm never stopping at a 7-Eleven that late again. It was around midnight, possibly a little later. I was on my way home from a boring party that my friend had forced me to attend. I hadn't eaten all day and was seriously craving snacks, hot Cheetos, gummy worms, the whole shebang. So I pulled into this random 7-Eleven that was open along my route. The area was dead quiet, with barely working streetlights. I pulled over, got out, and walked in. The first thing I noticed was how quiet the store was. No music, no cashier, just the soft humming from the fridges. A handwritten sign rested on the counter. Her chewing sounded wrong, wet and slow, like cartilage grinding. Her mouth opened unnaturally wide, and I heard a snap in her jaw. The rising bile forced me to vomit. My legs giving out. Jesus Christ was all I could manage as I fumbled for my phone to call the police, my hands shaking too much to dial properly. She dropped her food and began to move slowly toward the counter. Her voice dropped, not quite a whisper, but as if another voice spoke beneath hers. He said, "They'll come in if I feed them," she muttered. I had no idea what she meant, but I wasn't waiting to find out. I grabbed the fire extinguisher from behind the counter, just in case. As I reached the register, sirens wailed outside. She froze, her head twitching violently like a broken doll. Her eyes darted from the door to me. Then she let out a guttural, animalistic growl. She dropped to her knees and started hitting herself. When the police entered, she was still screaming and laughing while hitting herself. They had to restrain her, and she fought like a rabid dog, yelling about the hungry ones in the dark and how she'd fed them enough to last the night. They sedated her and took her to a hospital. A cop returned later that morning for my statement. He believed she was in a severe drug-induced psychosis. Her record showed a previous arrest years ago for attempting to bite a woman's face in a soup kitchen bathroom, but this was the worst episode they'd encountered. She's now in a psychiatric ward. Since that night, I've locked the store doors at midnight and only serve through the glass window. Corporate complaints be damned. I'm not putting myself in that situation again. This incident happened about 2 weeks ago, and I still get chills thinking about it. I swear I'm never stopping at a 7-Eleven that late again. It was around midnight, maybe a bit later. I was driving home from a boring party a friend had dragged me to. Having not eaten all day, I was craving snacks. Hot Cheetos, gummy worms, the works. I pulled into a random 7-Eleven that was open along my route. The area was eerily quiet, with dimly working streetlights. I got out and walked in. The first thing I noticed was the absolute silence within the store. No music, no cashier, just the soft hum of the fridges. A handwritten sign rested on the counter. It read, "Gone for a smoke. Be back soon." I felt a little relieved, figuring the guy had just stepped down for a minute. I started walking toward the candy aisle when I saw this kid standing near the freezer. He was maybe 9 or 10, skinny, pale. He was wearing an oversized hoodie in black jeans. The boy was just standing there unmoving, staring at the ice cream freezer like he was in a trance. I kind of smiled at him thinking, poor dude, must be waiting for his dad or something. Suddenly he noticed me and smiled back. But I don't know, something about it made me uncomfortable. His smile didn't reach his eyes, and those eyes kind of glossy with something off behind them. Have you ever seen someone smile with dead eyes? It hits different. I shrunk it off and started grabbing some snacks and drinks, acting normal. But every time I looked back, I saw him taking slow steps toward me. His eyes were following me around. At first, it was subtle, like I'd be in the chip aisle and he'd be standing 2 feet away. I'd move to the drinks. Boom. He was right behind me. Again, not saying anything, just watching. At this point, I was like, okay, what the hell is this kid doing? Then out of nowhere, he said, "Do you live alone?" I paused, turned slowly. What? He stared, didn't blink, then asked, "How often do you lock your windows?" Y'all, I'm not kidding. My whole body locked up. I tried to laugh it off. Like, dude, that's kind of a creepy thing to ask. He just kept staring. Your bedroom faces the street right now. I was panicking inside. I pretended to text someone on my phone, trying to make it look like someone was waiting for me. But he was still standing there, still watching. So I started walking toward the door. First, I figured I'd just dip and hit a different store. But before I even reached the exit, I felt something wrap around my wrist. The kid hugged me from behind, and tightly. I straight up screamed, and yanked myself away. His grip was too strong for a 10-year-old. My whole body went ice cold. My skin crawled, like I'd just touched. Something fell. I turned around and shoved him back, yelling, "Back off. Did your parents not teach you manners?" His face turned red with rage, like a switch flipped inside of his head. His smile twisted into this pissed-off, twitchy expression. I swear his eyes twitched and his jaw clenched so hard it looked painful. He didn't even say anything, just bent down, grabbed a soda can off the floor, and launched it straight at my forehead. I heard the clank before I felt it. My vision started to blur as I collapsed onto the floor, screaming. I touched my temple and immediately noticed my palms were covered in warm blood. I started crying for help. I crawled behind a shelf, half dizzy, and that freak was just standing there breathing heavily, just watching me suffer like it was a damn game. Right? Then the front door swung open, and the cashier bolted in. It was a guy in his 40s, who looked winded and terrified. He must have heard me screaming. He froze when he saw the kid. The boy didn't wait another second. He ran off into the dark highway. The cashier helped me get up and I kept crying.
I didn't know what's wrong with that kid. He just behaved so badly and then threw this, but the cashier cut me off with a shocked face and said, "That's not a kid, you. A dwarf. He's been lurking here for hours." My heart dropped. That explained why he had so much strength. It took everything I had to free myself from his grasp when he hugged me.
The cashier was a good guy. He gave me a wet cloth to press against my bleeding head while he called the cops and paramedics. When the cops came, I was dizzy from blood loss. They sent me to the hospital and questioned the cashier for every bit of detail they could get about that terrifying man. It took 3 stitches to stop the bleeding. I stayed at the hospital for a week. The cops visited me there for follow-up questions. On the 4th day, when I was feeling a little better, the cashier came to see me. He apologized for what had happened and said he felt responsible for leaving the store unattended. I told him none of it was his fault. 2 weeks have gone by, and that man still hasn't been caught. I keep my windows locked at all times now. I even installed a doorbell camera, just in case. Sometimes when it's raining out at night with thunderstorms and lightning, I get nightmares. I see myself lying in bed, and the man is standing over me, sucking blood from my wound. I am not a writer. I don't even consider myself a conversationalist, but I figured someone should hear this. Maybe it'll make you look around the next time you're outside after dark. I'm 50 ex-military. I've served 2 tours overseas, seen some messed up stuff. Sure, however, nothing compares to the incident that occurred at that infamous 7-Eleven 2 months back. It was around 11:45 p.m. I just finished a long shift, driving rigs, and needed to smoke bad. I pulled into a sketchy-looking 7-Eleven off some side road in downtown Phoenix. I'd been there before. The store always had this flickering red neon light that buzzed like a wasp nest. I walked in. It was empty except for this young cashier, maybe 19 or 20, standing behind the counter, looking half asleep. I gave him a polite nod, walked toward the cigarette case behind the counter, and asked for a pack of. He turned to grab them when the door flew open. 2 teenage boys rushed in, hoodies, up masks, on each holding a knife. They moved fast, yelling at the cashier, "Hands up, give us the money, now." One of them jumped the counter in a single leap. The other ran towards me, pointing the knife. I stepped back and raised both hands. All right, easy. I'm just a customer." But they weren't listening. The employee behind the counter froze. I saw his hands trembling as he tried to open the register. He was just a kid. His job probably paid peanuts. And now he had a knife in his face.
I was about to say something, anything to keep it from getting worse, but I was too late. One of the robbers stabbed the employee right in the gut. No hesitation, no warning. He plunged the knife in without hesitation or warning. I'll never forget that sound. The wet gasp echoed through my mind. The guy collapsed as swiftly as a rag doll.
The blood swiftly spreading beneath his uniform shirt. Something inside me snapped. I didn't think, I just moved. I grabbed the closest thing I could, a glass Snapple bottle from the fridge, and cracked it over the head of the guy coming at me. A staggered back, dazed knife, clattering to the floor. The second one, the one who stabbed the cashier, turned toward me. Wild, died. I barely had time to brace before he lunged. He slashed at my ribs. Sharp pain exploded in my side, but I caught his wrist before he could go any deeper. Blood was pouring out of me, but adrenaline was taking over. I twisted his arm hard and slammed him into the cooler door. It shattered behind him, glass raining down. He groaned and hit the ground, but I was fast. The first guy had recovered. He tackled me to the floor, fists flying. I took a few hits to the face, then landed a powerful elbow to his nose. It crunched under the impact. He screamed and rolled off of me. My breathing was heavy. I could barely make it out with my blurry vision. My shirt was soaked with blood. I could feel it warm against my skin. I grabbed the shelves near me to pull myself up, then almost limped towards the exit, grabbing a broomstick. The thugs were lying on the ground, groaning in pain, but not more than me. I knew if they got up and attacked me again, I might not be able to beat them. I'm not a young buck anymore, and the moron stabbed me deep. I jabbed the stick on the door handles of the 7-Eleven entrance, so in a way, the thugs don't get the chance to escape. The poor employee was lying on the floor. I felt really bad for him. As I called the cops, I leaned on the pavement explaining the bloody mess that just happened. Everything felt cold. My ears were ringing. I remember saying out loud, "Don't fall asleep yet. Not yet. Don't you damn sleep." Luckily, the police arrived in 5 minutes. When I heard the sirens, I looked at the sky and thanked the Almighty. Red and blue lights flooded. The store cops stormed in, weapons drawn. One of them shouted, "Drop the weapon." But I didn't even have one. I think I said something like, "I'm the good guy," before I passed out. When I woke up, I was in the hospital, stitched up. I had multiple tubes inserted into my body, a couple broken ribs, and he told me I lost a lot of blood, but I'd make it. Sadly, the young cashier didn't. He was gone before the ambulance got there. They told me the 2 boys, both 17, had been on a robbery spree across the city. One clerk they attacked before ended up in a coma. Another woman got her throat slit at a gas station, but survived by a miracle. A cop said, if I hadn't stepped in, they would have gotten away again, maybe even killed more people. They called me a hero. I didn't feel like one though. The image of that poor kid, gasping on the floor, eyes wide with shock, that haunted me, still does. You spend years training for combat, learning to stay alert and alive, and then life throws you into a war zone when you're just trying to buy a damn cigarette. I get nightmares sometimes. These nightmares do not originate from the battlefield, from that store, the buzzing light, the gurgle the cashier made when he drowned into the lap of death, the sound of that knife going in. I still drive rigs, still stop for gas and smokes, but I don't walk into convenience stores the same way anymore, and keep my eyes sharp. My hands are loose, my back to the wall, and if I hear the door chime at night, I look first. You should too.